Wall Street's best stock debut ever. There's no .com in its name. It's all about Linux.
And a golden day for the NASDAQ, smashing its 50th record of the year in its most active session ever.
And for Tyco, news of an accounting probe in Washington equals disaster on Wall Street. $14 billion of market value obliterated.
And shopping online keeps you away from the mall crowds, but not always away from the tax man.
This is the Moneyline News Hour. Reporting tonight from New York, Stuart Varney and Willow Bay.
Good evening and welcome to Moneyline, a euphoric day in the IPO market.
Our shareholders in VA Linux came as close as you can get on Wall Street to literally hitting the jackpot. Now, VA Linux is a tiny company, but after its astonishing debut, it's worth $9.9 billion. What it does is make the computers and servers that run on the Linux operating system, an alternative to Microsoft Windows. Today, VA Linux went public at $30 a share, and it ballooned a stunning 697% to close at $239.25 per share. That is the best first-day pop for an IPO ever, topping the Globe.com stellar debut just a year ago. Other Linux-related stocks raced higher as well. Red Hat soared 15 points plus, extending its recent run-up. Andover.net up more than 15.25. It went public at $18 yesterday. Pearl Systems, iLog, and Corel all up sharply as well.
The lust for Linux stocks, all on the NASDAQ, helped push the composite index to its 50th record of the year after a roller coaster session. By any measure, it is the superstar index, hitting a record about 1 in every 5 sessions this year. It's also on track for its best year ever. Charles Molyneux is at the NASDAQ, Amex market site, and he joins us now. Charles?
Yeah, well, the NASDAQ composite closed at a new record of 35.94, up 8 points. It is now up 64 points for the year. That's 64% for the year. Hard to believe, but investors are still teetering between the belief that it's time to sell off these expensive stocks and take their profits on the one hand, and the desire to be in as the high flyers fly higher still on the other. If you look at how the NASDAQ composite performed today, you can see the roller coaster of volatility that brought us. The NASDAQ surged at the open to a high of 36.47, then plunged 133 points, then recovered as bargain hunters started buying again on the busiest trading day in NASDAQ history. More than 1.7 billion shares changed hands. Apple suffered from some of that profit-taking. It fell almost $5. That after it hit a new all-time high of $118 a share on Tuesday. But Internet stocks roared back. The Goldman Sachs Internet Index was up by 4.5%, and Amazon.com rose by 16.5% after a new study showed robust traffic at its websites. All this volume on the NASDAQ was great news for the Internet stockbrokers. E-Trade was up more than 10.5%, but the most actively traded stock was, as we've been talking about, Linux-related. Corel picked up another 39%, or $10 on the day. Market watchers say the red-hot popularity of Linux is a symptom of investors' frenetic search for the next big growth story that isn't already impossibly expensive. And that is a symptom of their desire to stay invested in technology stocks. And strategists are expecting this kind of gains, with some potential retrenchments along the way, will continue all the way into January. Willow?
Charles, good time to catch your breath.
Oh,
Charles
yes.
Molyneux after quite a day on the NASDAQ. Thank you.
The Dow Industrials climbed in their first winning session of the week, but a pair of losing issues dominated the headlines at the New York Stock Exchange. Accounting questions plagued Tyco International, the most actively traded big board stock, and also the oil driller Baker Hughes. Rhonda Schaffler has more in today's Street Sweep.
The NASDAQ wasn't the only winner on Wall Street today. The Dow Industrials also closed higher in a tumultuous session that sent the Dow soaring about 130 points, then slipping into the minus column before settling midway in between. The Dow closed up 66 points at 11,134 in one of the busiest trading days of the year. It was a day of gyrations that tired some traders, but unnerved few analysts.
There's an ebb and flow to the market right now, and we just saw weeks of flow. So it'd be okay if it ebbed a little bit, and it would be okay if people pulled in their horns, especially on the stocks that really make up the indexes.
One of those stocks was IBM, which repeated warnings for weaker earnings this quarter and next due to Y2K concerns. IBM stock fell more than $4. Two other prominent losers, Tyco International, the one-time Wall Street darling, fell 8 to a new 52-week low of 28 on news the SEC is launching an informal inquiry into the company's accounting practices for recent acquisitions. Baker Hughes was also plagued by accounting issues for one of its units, which could mean restating its earnings. Despite those prominent big board losers and the day's wild swings, one analyst is confident the market is still heading higher.
I think the period of vulnerability for a periodic shakeout will be January of 2000. But I think December looks fine to me.
Traders may decide just how fine the market looks early tomorrow after the release of the Producer Price Index report. It's expected to show prices nudged up a bit. If prices rise more than expected, though, that could spook the street. Stuart?
Well, Rhonda, the Dow is up, the Nasdaq's up, all true, yes, but the breadth of the market is still negative.
That's right, and the traders here don't like that, especially people who follow the market on a technical basis. Traders on the floor are talking more and more about that. The rally, again, is just a very narrow group of stocks, and that can be troubling in the weeks ahead.
Rhonda Schaffler reporting from the big board. Thanks, Rhonda.
VA Linux, not the only stock with a hot debut today. Jazztel, a Spanish telecom company, surged from 17.5 to 59 3/16. But while these issues soared, a couple of others fell flat. Fog Dog, an online sporting goods retailer, started at 11 and inched to 12 13/16. Interep National Radio, which sells ad time for more than 2,000 radio stations, moved from 12 to 13 7/16. The IPO obsession came under fire today from the nation's top stock regulator. Speaking at Columbia University, SEC Chairman Arthur Levitt discouraged inexperienced investors from risking money on a stock debut.
I worry about investors making short-term judgments. The IPO market is a hot market now, but it can become a very cold market very quickly. And investors simply shouldn't make IPOs the most important part of their investment strategy.
Levitt went on to say that Wall Street firms are hyping hot new issues, something he called, quote, reprehensible.
All right, it's time now to check in with some of Moneyline's other reporters to see what they're working on for us. And we begin with Bruce Francis. Bruce?
Thanks, Stuart. It's been a season of moonshot IPOs, but not all of those day one wonders continue on to the stars. And I'll tell you some of the reasons why.
I'm Kelly Arena in Washington. There's a battle raging here, and the outcome will affect how much you pay for your online purchases, just as the business of e-commerce is booming. I'll have all the details.
Also ahead on Moneyline, Energy Secretary Bill Richardson sounds the alarm on rising oil prices. Will Washington step in to drive them back down?
Also ahead, it is rocket science, but they keep missing their targets. Question, is NASA worth the money that you are spending on it?
And the new head wrangler at the computer company with a box inspired by a cow. Meet Jeffrey Weitzman of Gateway. All that and more coming up.
From CNN's New York headquarters, this is the Moneyline News Hour.
We all romanticize freedom. At Putnam Investments, we celebrate boundaries, the unsung glory of staying within the lines. We call it truth in labeling. It means we adhere to the investment parameters of every mutual fund, retirement, and pension plan. We don't stray beyond borders to dabble with people's destinies. What investors own is what they bought. Sometimes thinking inside the box is what sets people free.
He's worked almost 40 years. She's worked almost 40 years. And during that time, they've gone on walks together instead of cruises, and shared secrets together instead of champagne, just so that someday they could retire and be together all the time. At Cigna, we care about the retirement dreams of over 5 million people. After all, there are dreams too. Cigna, a business of caring.
Postal Service, with new automated systems from Lockheed Martin, is speeding the delivery of billions of pieces of mail. and the occasional birthday present from Uncle Will. Interestingly, Lockheed Martin is also building America's next generation of fighter planes, which means we not only help deliver the present, but the future.
Oil prices retreated today from their recent highs. Light sweet crude slipped 39 cents to $26.15 a barrel. The reason, a warning from the Energy Secretary. Bill Richardson said the government may need to intervene to keep a lid on crude prices, which he said were, quote, drifting into dangerously high levels. Bill Dorman has the story.
The recent run-up in the price of oil has kept traders busy in the pits of the New York Mercantile Exchange. But as usual, it's not just about economics, it's also about politics.
We are concerned about oil prices. We would be extremely concerned if they went up to unacceptably high levels. And if that's the case, you know, we have options, we have contingencies.
The United States has more than 500 million barrels of oil stored in its Strategic Petroleum Reserve in Texas and Louisiana. Whether to dip into those reserves has become a political issue, raised at the latest Republican presidential debate, and the topic of a bipartisan bill introduced on the Senate floor last month. Despite today's drop, the price of oil is still more than double what it was at the beginning of the year. But many analysts say even oil at $30 a barrel would not choke the United States, nor the global economy.
Changes in energy prices are not nearly as important for economic activity as they had been. But a lot of people remember those recessions, remember the lines at the gas pumps, and because there is a rise in prices, start thinking the worst-case scenario, and this is what seems to spur some of these political statements.
Those political statements are certain to pick up if this winter turns out to be a cold one across much of the United States. More oil from Iraq will come onto world markets if, as expected, the country ends its suspension of exports this weekend. But Secretary Richardson says supply and demand events over the next few weeks will determine what action, if any, the United States will take when it comes to the price of oil. Stuart, Willa?
Bill, other than those reserves, does the government have any other options, really?
Well, really, it's a matter of lobbying right now. Start with probably Venezuela, Mexico. Over the medium to long term, though, Saudi Arabia remains the key to world oil prices.
Bill Dorman, thank you. Checking tonight's Moneyline movers, Papa John's International sank 8 1/4. The pizza chain said its decision to close early on Christmas Eve will cause a shortfall in fourth quarter sales. But the company still expects to meet or exceed fourth quarter profit estimates. E-Toys fell 4 1/8. J.P. Morgan started it with a market perform rating and a $50 price target. It said despite E-Toys' strong management team, its valuation is still too high. Sienna up 1 3/4. Lehman Brothers upgraded the telecom equipment maker and said new products should launch on time. And Vertel up 6 1/8, trading at 32 times its normal volume. It released its eOrb product to the telecom industry yesterday. eOrb manages communication between different hardware and software products. It works with Linux and Windows NT.
The NASDAQ stock market hopes to take some business away from the big board. The parent company of the nation's #2 stock market today unanimously approved a preliminary plan to add a new trading system. The NASD said the new Primex auction system operates like a floor-based stock exchange. The technology is supposed to bring greater efficiency to order executions. Well, today's restructuring news is widely viewed on Wall Street as a step towards taking the NASDAQ public. Despite its recent trouble, I think that's you.
Thanks, Stuart.
Go for it.
Well, despite its recent troubles, the new CEO of Coca-Cola stands by the company's ambitious earnings and growth targets. Douglas Daff said today he is committed to the long-term stated goals of the company and said the year 2000 will be a year of recovery. Coke stock has dropped 12% since Doug Ivester resigned as CEO on Monday. But today, its stock rebounded, up nearly 2 1/4. Bank of America upgraded the soft drink giant to a market performer and set a $75 price target. Still ahead on Moneyline, a budget in the billions for an agency plagued by failures.
What's the return on your investment in NASA? We'll have that story after this break.
Houston Discovery, roll program.
Roger, roll, Discovery.
Deutsche Bank, redefining financial services. Unique insights.
Focus, commitment, and expertise lead to new opportunities. In-depth vision turns an opportunity into remarkable results. Unique insights are leading to results. Deutsche Bank.
Imagine the most majestic landscapes, and then imagine completing them. Presenting the Fairmont Collection, grand hotels inspired by the grandeur of their surroundings. The Fairmont Collection, extraordinary hotels in extraordinary places.
Shop the world's finest brands under one roof. Yours. LuxuryFinder.com. For the holidays.
Introducing Power Street, where you could win free trades for life. Visit Fidelity.com for details. Power Street. Online trading gets personal. Get in-depth market analysis and stock picks from Lehman Brothers on Power Street. Power Street. Online trading at Fidelity.com.
Sunday on CNN and Time. Unlocking one of the most tightly held secrets on Earth. Where U.S. weapons were secretly stored during the height of the Cold War. A CNN and Time exclusive. Sunday, 9 Eastern.
It's the eve of the new millennium and the dawn of a new economy.
I'm Stuart Varney.
And I'm Willow Bay. Join us as we look at where business is now.
And if this new era of prosperity will last. A special Moneyline series all next week, 6:30 Eastern on CNN.
Checking some of the stocks that hit 52-week highs today. Corning on the list, so too is Home Depot and Viacom. And two newspaper stocks also hit highs, including Gannett and the New York Times. We have a great deal of news outside the world of business to bring you tonight. In Worcester, Massachusetts, a 3-mile-long procession led to a memorial where thousands paid tribute to 6 firefighters who died fighting a blaze allegedly set by 2 homeless people. 2 of the 6 were lost during an initial attempt to save the couple thought to be trapped. 4 others died trying to save their fellow firefighters.
Most cities have one hero. The city of Worcester was blessed with 6. God bless you, Jerry and Paul. Deb, Jay and Joe, and their loved ones.
Overseas, Secretary of State Madeleine Albright announced today, while in Egypt, that she's ordered the expulsion of a Russian diplomat after he was allegedly caught using an eavesdropping device at the U.S. State Department. In Beijing, Russia's President Boris Yeltsin lashed out at U.S. criticism of the war in Chechnya. A boastful Yeltsin said, quote, "It seems Mr. Clinton has forgotten Russia is a new great power that possesses a nuclear arsenal." The president responded.
Let's not talk about what the leaders are saying and all these words of criticism. Let's focus on what the country is doing. Is it right or wrong? Will it work or not? What are the consequences? I think I don't agree with what's going on there, and I think I have an obligation to say so.
A dramatic study out today from the RAND Corporation warning that the mission of the National Transportation Safety Board is in jeopardy.
The Safety Board is already stretched to the limit. The NTSB is suffering from a lack of equipment, facilities, and inadequate staff training because of the work overload. Breakdown will only be avoided through the infusion of additional resources.
The study commissioned by the NTSB also found that investigative techniques have not kept up with technology, and that allowing airlines and plane manufacturers to assist in investigations can compromise findings. And late word tonight of a helicopter crash off the coast of San Diego. A Marine Corps Sea Knight with 18 aboard crashed into the Pacific. 11 have been rescued so far by Navy SEALs and the Coast Guard. No word on fatalities at this point.
A warning from a legendary U.S. gunmaker in response to a threat from the White House. William Keyes, the CEO of Colt Manufacturing, says lawsuits against gun makers could force job cuts and drive some companies out of business. That after the White House yesterday announced it was supporting a lawsuit aimed at forcing gun makers to accept restrictions. Nearly 30 cities and counties are suing gun companies over costs related to shootings. The president making waves on another issue today as well. America's digital divide, the gulf between rich and poor over computer ownership and internet use. The president says he will tour impoverished regions this spring in an effort to bring attention to the digital divide. And at a press conference with some of the biggest names in high tech, President Clinton called on the executives to help close the gap.
Guilty pleas today from the man behind a computer virus that caused over 80 million in damage worldwide. David L. Smith of New Jersey admitted that he created and spread the Melissa virus last March. He pleaded guilty to state and federal charges in a deal with prosecutors and now faces up to 15 years in prison. Smith says he knew what he was doing when he distributed the virus, but was surprised by the extent of the damage.
NASA can be forgiven if it feels like it's been hit by a virus of a different sort this week. In the latest glitch, a long-delayed shuttle mission to fix the Hubble telescope will now have to fly during the Christmas holiday in order to land before Y2K. And with a nearly $14 billion budget, critics are wondering whether NASA's leading-edge approach of faster, better, cheaper is really paying off. Bob Beard has the story.
The Mars Polar Lander fails to phone home a potential $194 million loss. In September, the Mars Climate Orbiter apparently burns up, a $125 million mistake. The Hubble Space Telescope out of service, the Space Shuttle Discovery mission to repair it delayed. It's the worst year for NASA in over a decade. The agency now on the defensive. Critics blame too few people.
NASA's been penny wise and pound foolish, that they were trying to do ambitious missions and simply had not put enough money and enough people into the projects to give a reasonable chance of success.
The president is quick to praise NASA as a vital part of the aerospace industry that generates 1 million U.S. jobs and $40 billion in exports.
We have to keep doing this if we ever hope to know what's beyond our galaxy.
The NASA budget this year, $13.7 billion, is $25 million below last year, down almost 19% over 7 years adjusted for inflation. Faced with tight budgets, the agency is attempting to achieve its mission better, cheaper, faster. Lockheed Martin built the Mars lander. It calls the loss disappointing and embarrassing. Aerospace analyst Joseph Campbell of Lehman Brothers says the failures could hurt future contracts.
Lockheed, whose image is certainly tarnished, will be further hurt by this particular failure, but it won't be hurt by the particular costs of this failure. That is, financially, Lockheed didn't have a lot at stake.
NASA is now investigating the apparent failure of the Polar Lander, and that could delay the next Mars flight set for 2001. Bob Beard for CNN Financial News, Washington.
And coming up, a boxing heavyweight and his lean, mean machine.
George Foreman lands a deal to make his wallet a whole lot fatter.
Leading Edge is brought to you by Dell, pioneering direct internet ideas for your business. Be direct. Dell.
3 years ago, my IT guys told me there'd be two kinds of businesses. Those with a vision to master the internet and those without. And we didn't want to be the second kind. Then Dell came to see us. They showed us how to use the internet for direct relationships with our customers, suppliers, everyone who's a part of our business. With Dell's support, there's no limit to where I can take this company. We always knew we needed the internet. We just didn't know how badly.
Be direct. Dell. Dell servers use Intel Pentium 3 processors.
Money. It's more than pennies, dimes, and dollar bills. It's deposits, withdrawals, numbers on a page, or bits on a disk. It's business and pleasure. It's stocks and bonds, principal and interest. It's tied to our hopes and part of our dreams. These days, money means so many things to so many people. Where does a financial institution turn for the technology to make sense of it all? To Fiserv, where money and technology meet.
After the creation of mankind, there was wonder about the enormity of human potential. Perhaps it should be buried in the oceans, or hidden on the mountaintops, or set adrift in space. Then it was finally understood. All that enormous potential was placed inside each of us, because it wouldn't occur to us to look there.
Manpower. We find the best in everyone and put it to work.
They're the largest creatures on Earth. They've adapted and evolved with strength and determination. The kind of strength that helps the Pacific Life family of companies manage more than $300 billion for its clients. And determination that has guided Pacific Life for 130 years. Size, strength, longevity, offering annuities, insurance and investments. Use the power of Pacific Life.
Checking some of the stocks that hit new 52-week lows today, Linens and Things, General Mills, Reebok International, Norfolk Southern, and Winn-Dixie Stores. A losing day for investors in those stocks, but a winning one for former heavyweight boxing champ George Foreman. He is cashing in on his lean, mean grilling machine. The so-called fat-reducing grills have become hot sellers for the appliance maker Salton. So hot, Salton will fork over $113 million in cash and $23 million in stock to use Foreman's name and likeness in perpetuity. Up till now, Foreman received a 60% cut of the profits as royalties. Salton's stock rose 1.25 to 33. But the current edition of Consumer Reports could deal a body blow to the grill. The nonprofit research group says the grill's claims of fat reduction were not substantiated in tests. Oh well, it's probably not going to reduce that $113 million payment much.
$113 million? That's
it's perpetuity, though.
Sounds like a lot of money to me. Here's what we have, still to come. Linux euphoria. VA Linux soars into the IPO history books, and investors snap up anything Linux-related.
A different story at Tyco International. Its stock slammed yet again as regulators probe its accounting method.
Plus, Ted Waite steps down as Gateway's chief executive. We'll talk to the man taking over the top spot, Jeff Weitzen, coming up on Moneyline.
It's a special Millennium Month of guests on Larry King Live. Tonight, Larry welcomes Ivana Trump. That's tonight, 9 Eastern, and all month on CNN.
The folks at Shiloh Inn's headquarters in Portland, Oregon like to shed a little light on Christmas spirit. Over 93,000 lights. They're just part of Shiloh Inn's spectacular 6,200 square foot Christmas display. It can be seen for miles and lights the way to a charity food and toy donation area. The Guinness Book of World Records thinks it may be America's largest single corporate display. And Mark Hemstreet, owner of Shiloh Inn's, adds more lights each year. I guess you could say Shiloh takes Christmas seriously, but in a lighthearted way.
Chang's Mongolian Grill. Try our new location at 251st in Powell.
There's no thrill like discovery. The Discovery Channel. Explore your world.
Sponsored in your community by West Coast Bank.
And Leon Harris, weekdays on CNN. Moneyline News Hour continues. Here again, Stuart Varney and Willow Bay.
In tonight's headlines, the NASDAQ hits the big 5-0. 5-0 records, that is. It's on course for a history-making year. They may be the two most dreaded words on Wall Street, accounting investigation. And they're why Tyco's stock lost nearly a quarter of its value today. And if you think you won't bump into the tax man online, think again. The battle over keeping the web a tax-free zone.
But first, our top story. It's what happens when you cross a booming IPO market with one of corporate America's hottest new ideas. VA Linux, which makes computers that run on the Linux operating system, today made the most successful debut in Wall Street's history. The stock went public at $30 a share. It hit a high of $320, and it ended the day at $239.25. That is a gain of 697%. Beating the Globe.com's opening day pop of 605%. Steve Young has our report.
VA Linux Systems blasted into the record books as one of the leading companies supplying large-scale computers for the Linux operating system. Linux competes with Microsoft's Windows NT, and VA Linux Systems made Fortune magazine's list of cool companies. Microsoft did not. But many analysts say day trader hysteria is more responsible for VA Linux Systems' incendiary first-day gain than the company's long-term prospects.
They produce some software drivers that make Linux run very well on their servers. But Dell or Compaq or IBM could replicate their strategy almost overnight if they started to lose sales to this company. So I don't think they have a lot of defensible value 2 or 3 years from now.
VA Linux Systems, which lost $14.5 million last year, now has a market value of about $10 billion. The big IPO winners were the technology investment firm Sequoia Capital, which holds a 23% stake, Intel, which holds 9%, and the company's CEO with 16%. He finished up about $1.5 billion on the day. Corel makes software applications for Linux, gained 30% on VA Linux Systems' IPO glow, but knows it faces a tough competitor.
Well, we're certainly not counting out Microsoft and Windows. We think it's got tremendous strength, and you can't beat the install base and the run rate they've got. We see Linux as providing a really strong competitive alternative, and I think the world's looking towards having a choice instead of just having a choice of one.
VA Linux Systems faces a big speed bump early in the new millennium. In February, Microsoft releases Windows 2000, the successor to Windows NT. Analysts expect it to shrink the number of customers who think Linux is a better operating system, and even the company's sharpest critics say Microsoft is the best marketer in all of technology. Willow, Stuart?
Any other companies like this in the Linux area?
There are some companies that have pieces of this, but this is the only big one that's got the whole enchilada.
That's why it went up so much. Steve Young, thanks very much. Well, VA Linux poured fuel on an already blazing rally among Linux stocks. Red Hat jumped 15 1/8, and it's up more than 40% this week alone. Corel climbed more than 10, and over .NET, which went public yesterday at 18, it surged more than 15 1/4.
But could this opening day explosion for VA Linux be too much of a good thing? Some IPOs that hit incredible highs on their first day of trading sometimes never reach those highs again, leaving some very disgruntled investors. Bruce Francis now on the journey from IPO fantasy to IPO flop.
A little more than a year ago, these masters of the Globe.com looked like masters of the new economy universe. Todd Kreiselman and Stefan Paterno took their web community site public and posted a record-setting one-day gain of more than 600%. A humbling 13 months later, the stock is trading at just under $11, just 22% above its offering price and 83% below its first-day close of $63.50. Some other first-day firecrackers have fizzled as well. CBS MarketWatch is off 58% from its first-day close. Priceline.com is down 16%. eToys is off 36%. And TheStreet.com has sunk 75%. That's one reason why financial advisor Michael Carty stays away from IPOs.
I avoid buying the companies or the stocks until they've gone through one very, very severe market cycle for the stock, not necessarily a big crash in the overall market, but also one very difficult economic cycle.
But such patience has not always been a virtue. If you waited until day 2 to buy recent IPO sensations like Juniper Networks, Sycamore Networks, Akamai, and Red Hat, you got a bargain, at least compared to current levels. And according to research firm ComScan Equidesk, the majority of the best-performing IPOs on day one have continued to rise. But if it's that kind of performance that lures investors, the nation's top stock regulator has words of caution.
I worry about any investment fad that moves too quickly, too fast, and I worry about investors making short-term judgments. The IPO market is a hot market now, but it can become a very cold market very quickly. And investors simply shouldn't make IPOs the most important part of their investment strategy.
Some observers insist that investors are becoming more discriminating. At least 10 IPOs this year fell 11% or more below their offering price on their first day of trading. Willow?
So, Bruce, is that what that suggests to you, that investors really are becoming more discriminating about these IPOs?
Well, I think so, especially when you consider what doesn't sell these days. Content companies aren't as good, but technology companies that have a real defensible, solid position, those are doing very well on Wall Street.
Bruce Francis, thank you.
IPO fever has helped the NASDAQ all year, and today was no exception. The index scored its 50th record of 1999. That means the NASDAQ this year has hit a record roughly 1 out of every 5 trading sessions. Today, the index edged up 8 points to close at 35.94. The volume, that hit a record 1.8 billion shares. But one analyst says the higher the NASDAQ goes, the riskier it gets.
Now is not the time to throw new money into the technology group. The NASDAQ's up over 60% this year. That's not normal. It does not happen too often, and a lot of those companies are at very excessive valuations led by the internet stocks, and at some point they do come back to earth.
The Dow Industrials actually outperformed the NASDAQ for a change, rallying 66 points, ending the day at 11,134. And volume on the big board, a busy 1 billion shares. However, losing issues beat winners by a 3-2 margin, and 109 stocks hit new 52-week highs. There were 406 that hit new lows. Checking some of the bigger movers on the Dow, Johnson & Johnson, General Electric, and ExxonMobil all up sharply, while Merck and Intel, they lost some ground.
Much more to come on Moneyline. How deep do the troubles run at Tyco? The SEC has launched an investigation to find out.
And coming up later, e-taxes, the fight to keep the web a tax-free zone.
Quicker to respond to change, and lets us see things on a whole different level. Think big, move fast. Conoco.
We can help you see things from every angle, because the fresher the thinking, the fresher the cheese. Ernst & Young, from thought to finish.
Disaster again struck a one-time Wall Street darling today. Tyco International stock plunged after the SEC said it was launching an informal inquiry into the company's accounting practices. Worries about Tyco's books have been hanging over the stock price for 2 months. Today, it lost more than 8.25 points, that's 23%, and 89 million shares changed hands. It was the most active stock on the big board. Alan Dodds-Frank has our report.
Tyco, owner of U.S. Surgical, AMP, and Raychem, had hoped by disclosing the investigation before it leaked, it would minimize damage on Wall Street. Instead, it added to the selling initially triggered by a damaging report issued by a short seller in mid-October that knocked nearly 30% off Tyco's stock. David Tice challenged the company's accounting of acquisitions, issues the SEC is now examining.
We do not believe that Tyco will grow as fast in the future as it has in the past, and a great deal of its growth came from aggressive accounting issues. We stand behind the report today. We have not been short the stock in the past, nor are we short the stock today.
Tyco's chairman, who has repeatedly denied there is a problem, today said, "In light of the market activity of our stock, which is not justified by any development at the company, we welcome the opportunity to respond to this request." Tyco will emerge from this episode even stronger than before. And some analysts are not concerned.
Are there accounting issues at Tyco? There are accounting issues insofar as the accounting's complex. It has formerly been a high-flying, acquisitive company, and there's a lot of rules that have to, that have to be invoked here. We are fully satisfied. There are no accounting irregularities.
So why the big sell-off?
I have some very sharp, sophisticated clients who've sold the stock, not because they think there's anything wrong, but because they think the guy next door is going to sell.
Many analysts dispute Tice's assertions and believe the company with more than $20 billion in revenue is solid. But that may not be enough to lift the stock until the SEC inquiry ends. Alan Dodd-Frank, CNN Financial News, New York.
Accounting issues also slam shares of Baker Hughes. The oil services company might have to restate earnings after an audit found accounting problems at its Intech unit. It could cost Baker Hughes up to $50 million. The stock sank 3 3/8 or 15% in 14 times its average volume.
In tonight's other movers, Lycos up more than 7. The web portal said it's considering an initial public offering of its joint venture with Bertelsmann. The Financial Times of London reports that the IPO could value Lycos Europe at $4 billion. Home Depot up more than 4. It'll expand its home appliance offerings. Brown Brothers Harriman said that Home Depot will also continue to deliver upside earnings surprises. IBM down nearly 4.5. Its chief financial officer repeated the company's outlook for lower fourth-quarter profits. John Joyce told analysts the Y2K lockdown is real, especially in many large accounts, but he expects customers to resume normal spending in the second quarter of next year. Amazon.com up more than 14.5. JP Morgan started it with a buy rating and a $160 price target. It expects the e-tailer to report a strong fourth quarter.
The day after Microsoft and Swedish telecom firm Ericsson unveiled a major web alliance, officials from the two companies met the press in Stockholm and hinted that they may form more partnerships down the road. This after Microsoft and Ericsson agreed yesterday to develop web browsers and email access over wireless phones.
This, we believe, is really the killer, the key volume application in making mobile internet a reality.
There's a wide range, I think, of exciting applications that'll serve the mobile worker, and we may find ways to cooperate. I know certainly I'd be very enthusiastic for us to find those, but we start with some things that we know how to go get done, and we're going to make them successful together.
In New York trading, Ericsson fell 3 1/8 after yesterday's strong jump, while Microsoft gained nearly $1.
In tonight's sector focus, we're looking at transportation stocks. The Dow Transport Index sank, nearly 2% today. Part of the reason, one analyst at Legg Mason said airlines are weak because of Y2K fears. Some major airlines are now saying fourth quarter traffic levels could be lower than normal. Shares of AMR, parent of American Airlines, down 1 5/8. Delta down nearly 2. Other transport stocks hit as well, like Union Pacific and the shipping company, U.S. Freightways.
Straight ahead on Moneyline, it's hard to imagine Gateway without ponytailed maverick Ted Wade in the driver's seat.
Well, meet the man who will replace him, Jeffrey Whiteson, after this break.
Tonight's Sectors Report is brought to you by KPMG. KPMG. It's time for clarity.
The park. A nice place to come if you have a spare 5 minutes. Maybe even spend a lunch hour. And if you let your company get left behind by technology, it's a place where you can come and spend the whole day.
more than pennies, dimes, and dollar bills. It's deposits, withdrawals, numbers on a page, or bits on a disc. It's business and pleasure. It's stocks and bonds, principal and interest. It's tied to our hopes and part of our dreams. These days, money means so many things to so many people. Where does a financial institution turn for the technology to make sense of it all? To Fiserv, where money and technology meet.
Tonight on CNN Newsstand, an agonizing sense of loss continues as firefighters from around the world remember their 6 fallen brothers killed in a Worcester, Massachusetts blaze. Complete coverage of today's memorial service. CNN Newsstand, tonight, 10 Eastern.
Sunday on CNN and Time. Unlocking one of the most tightly held secrets on Earth, where U.S. weapons were secretly stored during the height of the Cold War. A CNN and Time exclusive. Sunday, 9 Eastern. Tonight, on the Emmy Award-winning Larry King Live, we'll have a millennium's worth of guests throughout December. Tonight, Larry's special guest is Ivana Trump. It's a millennium month of guests. Tonight, 9 Eastern and all month, only on CNN.
In tonight's Moneyline Focus, a change of leadership at Gateway. The South Dakota company with the cow logo and the ponytail chief executive used to be known as Gateway 2000. But a lot has changed at the Silicon Valley outsider. Gateway dropped the 2000 from its name, moved to high-tech California, and is about to get a new chief executive. Gateway has also become a hot property on Wall Street. So far this year, its stock is up 158% after trading sideways for years. Well, join me now from San Diego, Jeffrey Whiteson, the man who will replace CEO Ted Waite. Jeffrey, congratulations and welcome to the program.
Thanks very much, Stuart. Good to be here.
Are you still concentrating on getting the consumer to the net? Is that basically your strategy for next year?
Well, there's no question that the number one reason people are buying PCs today and the number one use of the PC after they get it is actually internet related. And so there's no question that our focus is on helping customers have a much better experience from the selling process all the way through the delivery process around the internet.
You now call yourselves, an experience company as opposed to a computer company. Would you like to explain that one?
Well, clearly PCs are the core element of our business, and our expectation is they'll be the largest portion of them for some time to come. But we think that in today's age, that the PC has gotten so much more mainstream, and there are also a lot of appliances that will follow next year, that it's really about what do you do with the PC itself. And so when we talk about ourselves as an experience company, it's really about providing a great sales experience, a great service experience, and a great experience around using the product itself.
Jeffrey, Microsoft is going down the road of introducing individual devices linked by wireless to the net. Are you going to move in the same direction, individual devices linking people to the net?
As we work into next year, we're looking at introducing a fairly broad range of appliances during the course of next year. We actually categorize them in 3 different areas. One we would call across the countertop. Think of something that's relatively fixed. One across the room, something along the lines of a TV display. And then ultimately one that you can carry with you around town.
Jeffrey, Wall Street hasn't reacted much to this news, which is a good thing. It suggests a fair amount of confidence in you and comfort with the change, but obviously they'll be watching closely. What do you think you have to deliver?
Well, I think that they're expecting us to continue to deliver against a strategy that we really began to implement back 2 years ago. We've called it the Beyond the Box strategy. Very similar to the things that I talked about in terms of, we're an experience company. We've very much worked on transforming our revenue stream, diversifying that revenue stream, diversifying our profitability, solid growth results. I think those are all the things that have gotten us to this point, have gotten our stock up so much this year and made us a hot property, as you called us. And I expect that's what we'll be looking for going forward as well.
You and Ted Waite have worked very closely in transforming this company over the past 2 years or so. And you've also apparently have a very close relationship. Will you miss not having him in the office next door?
Well, I think that we're going to maintain that close relationship. It's grown. We actually knew it the first evening that we met more than 2 years ago that there was great chemistry between the two of us. Ted's not really completely exiting the company. He's going to remain our chairman. I expect that he'll be a great confidant, a great coach in many respects. And I feel like I'm one of the luckiest CEOs in America to have a chairman who's got so much insight into the industry.
Jeffrey Whiteson, thanks for joining us, and good luck as you take the helm officially.
Thanks very much.
Still to come on Moneyline, if you shop in cyberspace, should you pay a state tax?
That question has triggered a real battle in Washington, and we'll tell you about it after the break.
Moneyline Focus is brought to you by Deloitte & Touche, number 8 on Fortune's list of the best companies to work for in America.
Which Big Five firm always has time for its clients? The same firm ranked number 8 on Fortune's list of the 100 best companies to work for in America. The answer is Deloitte & Touche. Who's just proved lightning can strike in the same place twice? The only Big Five firm making its second appearance on Fortune's list of America's best places to work. The answer is Deloitte & Touche.
We all romanticize freedom. At Putnam Investments, we celebrate boundaries, the unsung glory of staying within the lines. We call it truth in labeling. It means we adhere to the investment parameters of every mutual fund, retirement, and pension plan. We don't stray beyond borders to dabble with people's destinies. What investors own is what they bought. Sometimes thinking inside the box is what sets people free.
The Green Mile is unquestionably the best picture of the year.
Is Coffee guilty? Yes, he is.
Tom Hanks leads an ensemble cast to perfection.
Take my hand off. You see for yourself.
Suspenseful, haunting, and deeply moving.
What did you just do to me?
The director of The Shawshank Redemption has created a miracle of a movie.
I just about believe that very thing.
The Green Mile, rated R, starts tomorrow at a theater near you.
Logging on to realestate.com. Easy. Finding the perfect home. Easy. Getting the lowest rate mortgage. Easy. Remembering that trash day is now Tuesday. Not so easy. We're the easiest part of getting a home. Realestate.com. The way it's meant to be. Log on or call 1-800-REAL-ESTATE.
Another blockbuster holiday season in store for e-merchants. Preliminary estimates from eMarketer, the online business analyst, show internet retailers will rack up $7.3 billion in sales in the fourth quarter this year. State treasuries are thrilled because more sales could mean more tax revenue. But internet taxes are causing confusion and fueling an angry debate. Kelly Arena reports.
A battle with billions of potential dollars at stake is now raging in Washington over whether to tax merchandise bought online.
We ought to grab the opportunities of the 21st century instead of trying to apply an old sales tax that was developed many, many decades ago to this new medium.
Gilmore chairs an Internet Tax Advisory Commission set up by Congress. It's being bombarded with proposals from lobbyists and is expected to present a plan next spring. Currently, the online tax situation is a confusing maze. Some companies charge sales tax in states they have stores, like catalogs do. Others have structured online operations as separate subsidiaries, exempting themselves from collecting taxes. For example, Toys R Us charges sales tax on all online purchases. Borders does not, except in Michigan and Tennessee. Nordstrom taxes in states where the company has stores. Revenue-hungry states have a vested interest in collecting tax on all electronic sales. With online spending projected to soar to more than $650 billion within the next 4 years, state legislatures could lose an estimated $15 billion in tax revenue.
There is a pretty serious constitutional issue because a lot of these sellers, of course, are within a particular state. And when it's intrastate, really the federal government has no ability to put any restrictions on that.
And traditional retailers say the government should not be in the business of picking winners and losers.
We are not calling for a new tax. We are not calling for excess taxes. We are just calling for fair and equitable enforcement across the board of sales tax.
Battle lines will be clearly drawn next week when the Advisory Commission holds its first public meeting in San Francisco. Kelly Arena, CNN Financial News, Washington.
And up next, the price of a stock tip from Warren Buffett and a very novel twist on fundraising.
And ahead of the curve, some of what you need to know tonight before the markets open tomorrow. You are watching Moneyline.
Ahead of the Curve is brought to you by Daytech Online. The rules of online trading are changing.
Until now, there has been a wall between you and the tools of serious trading. That wall is coming down. The information and technology professionals use to trade is now available to everyone. Daytech Online. The rules are changing.
Economic news should take center stage on Wall Street tomorrow. The producer price index is due out at 8:30 Eastern Time. Investors will watch that report very closely for the slightest sign of inflation. And keep an eye, please, on General Motors. Reuters said the automaker will announce its plans to invest in Fuji Heavy Industries tomorrow. GM would not comment on that report. More evidence of the hot IPO market. Free Markets priced its IPO at $48 a share tonight. That's up from an original expected price range of just $14 to $16. The company is a business-to-business online auctioneer.
Finally, from us tonight, $1,000 now can buy you a stock tip from Warren Buffett. This is the one-time brainchild of a Minnesota man, John Morgan. As you may remember, Buffett put his wallet with the stock tip tucked inside up for auction last week, all to benefit the Omaha branch of Girls, Inc., a nonprofit organization focused on young women's issues. It's run by Buffett's daughter. And it turns out that Morgan is a big contributor. He bought the wallet for $210,000 and will now share the tip with anyone who forks over $1,000, with all proceeds going to Girls, Inc. No reaction to the plan from Mr. Buffett.
All right, this programming note for you. Now, I'm just back from Seattle, working on parts of our Moneyline series on the new economy. Is it a boom without end? It starts this coming Monday. Now, we went inside Microsoft headquarters, behind the scenes at Amazon, and inside the tasting room at Starbucks with its chief executive, Howard Schultz. We also talked with the man who runs America's biggest exporter, Bill Condit, on where Boeing and the economy are headed in the next generation.
We'll also hear from top economists and policymakers about whether this golden age of prosperity can last. And we'll talk with business school students about their outlook for the 21st century. I think you'll be quite surprised by what they had to say. Our special two-week series begins Monday on the new economy, what the movers and shakers of this century are betting on for the next. I hope you'll join us. And one more brief programming note. Tonight at 10 Eastern Time on CNN Newsstand, I will have a profile on the hottest new thing in hardware, restoration hardware. And that is Moneyline for this Thursday night.
It is.
I'm Willow Bay.
And I'm Stuart Varney. Thanks for joining us. Good night from New York. Crossfires next. Here's Mary Matlin. Mary.
Another statement. Stuart and Willow, thank you so much. Homelessness is the hot, hip, political hit issue as Hollywood butts into the brawl between New York Senate contenders Hillary Rodham Clinton and Rudy Giuliani. She likens the homelessness to the baby Jesus. He says skull-smashing street people are no saints. Who are the homeless, and how do we help them? Next on Crossfire.
For all your financial news all the time, CNNFN.com. On the web, 24 hours a day.